In this video, we're going to show you 3 great exercises to improve your hip internal rotation. Hey, my name's Sebastian. This is Desiree.
Hey.
We're part of Locally World Famous Chiropractors in Costa Mesa, California. Before we actually start with the 3 exercises, I'm going to take her through a hip exam, because there are reasons why some of you may have lost your internal rotation of your hip anyways. If you find a reason for it in the exam, and I'll explain that during the process, it may behoove you to not try to challenge internal rotation just yet before you have that treated. If you need anything treated, you can always certainly come to us. We have virtuals or in-persons, and up in the corner we're going to have a workshop that you can watch at any point in time if you'd like, and learn a little bit more about why your hip may be reacting how it is. So let's go for the examination first. Go and line your back for me. Okay, so I'm going to do this hip just so all you can see. Bring that leg down here for me. So one of the most common reasons why people will have a loss of hip internal rotation, which is this, is because they have something called hip impingement or FAI or a cam deformity or a pincer or so on. And so usually deep in the hip, if you consider what it is, it's a ball-and socket joint. It should be able to move within certain ranges. And if at some point we get to, so Des has she has quite a bit of internal rotation here. I'm checking her at 90 degrees. Now, if we check the other side and it gets to here, not here, but here, and it feels stiff, like you're a good actor. And so she's got a pain point in the front here. It's basically like I'm smashing her femoral head into the rim of the pelvis, which may be a labrum, it might be FAI, and so on. And this is a passive test. I've met a lot of people who have been said, well, I have hip pain because my hip flexor is tight. Your hip flexor is off. I'm doing the work here.
Oh, man.
So we're checking passive structures, okay? So if you have an actual loss, like a bony block, you might not want to proceed with these exercises too much. So let's go through the exercises. Okay, there you go, right there. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is, if we're going to improve hip range of motion, we're going to do this leg first. We need to make sure her core is actually supported in the process. And so can you show me a plank? There you go. So she's doing a good job of keeping this from not arching. Can you show arching? There you go. Come on back up. So if she arches, she'll create more pinch point in front. By the way, whenever you need a break, you just tell me.
You got it.
Bring this leg up, right there. So she's keeping the knee in contact with the floor. Can you push my hand towards the camera and hold it there? All she's going to do is try to challenge the range. How far can she get? Push me up a little bit. And she's going to hold that position there. You can take a break whenever you want. And she's going to try to find about a minute in that position, and she may feel her right butt cheek start to burn.
Oh, yeah.
And probably your abs too.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. If you have shoulder pain or neck issues or back pain with this, obviously don't. There's other versions of the exercise you can do. So this is choice 1. What's choice 2?
Choice 2. This one is going to be, again, focusing on the internal rotation of the hip. So what we're going to do here is we are going to have Seb doing a banded bridge. So what we're going to do is I'll have him go ahead and put the band up. I'm going to bring this just above the knees, or below the knees if you prefer. So we're going to go just above the knees. This band's nice that it doesn't pull the leg hair out, so pro tip there. What we're looking for this procedure is we are going to, again, create some tension in the body. So he's going to work to drive his heels into the ground. Okay, so he's creating tension, lifting the hips up. He's engaging that core. He can bring his hands onto his sides and push into his fingertips like before. Good, and he's driving up. The intention of this is he's trying to separate the band here as hard as he can. Extra credit if he breaks the band too.
Oh. So tell me how does this improve internal rotation, because I'm doing external?
You are doing external rotation. Sometimes what happens is we are always stuck doing one motion, or we avoid doing that motion. So by challenging the joint in an opposite direction, sometimes it can give it that idea or the concept that it's okay to move. And so by activating the hips, we're going to encourage them to move maybe into more internal rotation than before.
Yeah. Sometimes too, like when people actually have the pathology, like we mentioned earlier, the hip is not properly, we call it centration. So the hip is in its socket, and if it's in a poor position, it'll create more pinch point early. And so if you activate the glutes, sometimes it will slide back into position roughly to me.
Yeah, there you
I'm
go.
gonna put you in the center here.
Okay. front and center here. So we're going to go here. We call this like a seated 90-90 position. And Seb, if you want to join me for this one, it's great.
Okay, we'll do that.
So what we're going to do for this motion, first we're going to sit up tall. We're going to rotate over the leg that's facing backwards just a little bit. This is where it gets nice and fun. First thing we're going to do is a similar concept to that glute bridge where we're engaging other muscles. And then we're going to go back and focus on more internal rotation. So right now you might already start to feel something in the front of the hip. As long as it's not extremely excruciating, that's okay. We are working this joint right now. You're going to take the inside aspect of your foot and crush a bug underneath it. So you're pushing down as hard as you can, trying to smash that bug. We're going to hold there about 10 seconds or so. We're going to release that. The next part is where it gets extra spicy. Rotating over the knee again. You're going to try to then pick this foot up. It's not going to go very high. So what we're going to do here, once you finish pushing down, you're going to just subtly lift this leg off the ground as if I was going to slide my fingers underneath.
That's impossible.
See? We all need a little bit of internal rotation. So I hope that this provides some help for you, gives you some answers to some of the questions you may be having. And if there's anything else we can do for you, let us know.
Yep, we have virtual and in-person services. As you can see, it's very easy to coach people virtually, especially if we're watching you on camera. We can make specific coaching cues. And as I mentioned earlier in the first exercise, is you shouldn't really have to fight through any pain while you're trying to improve your hip internal rotation, or you're trying to resolve a problem like hip or groin pain or sports hernias or FAI. Like, this shouldn't have to happen. Typically, the exercises that you pick should be comfortable, but very challenging or hard to create the adaptation that we want to make it so you can get your internal rotation back and do all the activities you want to do. So if you're looking for help, we have a link to the description in the below. Certainly get the webinar that we mentioned earlier. There's still a link in the corner up into there. It goes over the types of hip impingement or types of hip pathology that people may have, which is maybe why you're suffering and having to deal with internal rotation deficit in the first place. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. We'll see you next time.